it's Jamie with Soul Heart Entertainment here. I am doing a live every Tuesday on Facebook regarding toe reading. Toe reading. Love it. Let's see. Yes. All right. Hey, Nicole. How are you? Let me see if I can allow viewers to request to join as a guest. Sure. I mean, I don't see why not. Cool. Hello. Okay, so we are going to talk toes again. I have a couple of examples that I want to share with you. And today is, well, yesterday technically was the start of the Karmic Soul Reset involving relationships. Awesome. Hi, Bobby. Thank you for joining me. Practicing wiggling your toes. That's awesome, Nicole. That's so super good. Nicole told us last time that she had toes that didn't move a whole lot. And while you don't want them to move too much and be wishy-washy-ish, you do want them to be able to be flexible so that any given situation that you have comes, that you can roll with it. You know? But yeah, let's talk relationships today. So I don't know, I didn't receive any questions from anybody in particular, but if you have questions, please definitely add them to the chat. And if for some reason I'm not seeing you, you know, please forgive me in advance. I'm doing my best. The people, there are lots of comments that show up, so I think what happens is when somebody's not already connected with Soul Heart Entertainment or me specifically, it doesn't show up in my feed on my phone. So just apologizing in advance if I don't see your question. But if you add the question to the video chat, I definitely will address it at some point for you. So let's talk toe reading. Okay, so just a quick little review. I've been doing this for 1 solid month as of today. Yay! And I wanted to make sure that we all know exactly what toe reading is and kind of the basics of toe reading in general. So toe reading is this idea that our beliefs, specifically our subconscious beliefs, end up, our toes have a map of our subconscious thoughts. That's what it comes down to. So in subconscious thinking, we have things that we know we think subconsciously, and we also have things that we have no idea what they are subconsciously. So to me, it's a fabulous way to check in with a physical feature on your body that shows you where your thoughts are going and where they're clinging to. Hi, Jean. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so what toe reading means specifically to your toes has to do with the difference between yin and yang, which is internal and external ways of showing up in the world. We also, and that's the right foot, generally speaking, a right-handed person. Hi, Simon. Thank you for joining us. Yay. So on the right foot, we're talking about our external self, and that typically shows up as somebody who is right-handed. Their right foot would be their external self, or how they think other people see them in the world. And then we're on the left foot, we're talking about our internal self, or our yin self, and that's how we view ourselves on the inside. That's how we see ourselves, essentially. So, and the subconscious beliefs that show up in our toes show up in the direction, the color, you know, extra padding, you know, various and assorted calluses, or the ways that the toes are shaped, or bubbles of blisters, or that kind of thing. So everything means something in toe reading. And the idea behind toe reading is that because we have these thoughts, feelings, and emotions, they show up in our body in some way. Now, they can show up in a fabulously positive way, and they can also show up as dis-ease, meaning not being at ease with whatever it is that we're thinking. So to me, I love the science side of it, where it's so accurate that our bodies hold on to those things, and they literally show up in our toes. So if we can get to the root cause of what it is that we're trying to maybe avoid thinking on a regular basis, those subconscious thoughts that trip us up, if we can get to the root cause of that by looking at our toes and knowing where our thoughts are going, whether we realize it or not, I think that that's really, really exciting. So on the left side and the right side, the left side is our internal self, the right side is our external self. Our toes mean the same things on each of those feet, but obviously they are in relation to our external self or our internal self. So the big toe is the big picture. The second toe is the communication or analytical toe. The third toe is the action toe, and I'm going to try to show my lips just in case somebody has trouble. And then the ring finger toe, if you will, is our relationship toe. And then the baby toe is the only one that means something different from foot to foot. On our left side, it means faith and trust. And on our right side, it's about our prosperity and abundance. So for obvious reasons, the faith and trust and the prosperity and abundance kind of have to, well, no, they definitely have to come together in terms of the way that we're thinking about them. And so they are related in that respect, but they're not quite as distinct in their meanings like the other toes, where, the big toe is the big picture or our destiny. The second toe is our pointer toe, which is, all about the communication and the way that we think in the world, the analytical behaviors, and sometimes the creativity shows up there too, etc. So without further ado, we'll talk a little bit about relationships. And if you have any questions, definitely bring them up. So I'm going to use these toes as an example. I have a couple other toe pictures. And I just got a text that I have a photograph to reference, so I will reference that a little bit later, and we'll definitely talk about those toes. Okay, so these toes, if you take a good look at this picture, what you're seeing are relationship toes, which are the ring finger toes, kind of that toe right there, and that toe right there. Now, because the images are backwards to you, this is our left foot and this is our right foot. Okay, so what I see in these toes is on this one, which is our right foot, there's some holding back going on in her relationships, in this young lady's relationships. Can you see why I say that? This toe kind of has that, like, it comes out and then it kind of pulls back. It's almost, I think of a person, if we're the driver, if you will, of our horse and cart of life, I see that person, kind of holding back on the reins. Like, there's no just letting the horse guide us to where we need to be. So there's a little bit of a concern for her when it comes to where she's going with her relationships. Now, if you also look at this toe, the action toe, the relationship toe is kind of hidden underneath this action toe. So when I see that, I'm wondering where she feels stifled a little bit in her action, or in her relationship, or if the relationship is coming, because she has these beautiful long toes, which have a tendency to be the high priestess toes. If she's if her destiny is to follow her high priestess purpose in life, if you will, where is that relationship? Where is she holding back in that relationship? Where is she pulling on those reins a little bit too tight? And it feels like because it's stifled by the action. And then if we also look at how related her prosperity and abundance is to her relationship, they're very, very, very closely connected toes. So I'm wondering where where she gives too much power to the external relationships in her life, to, and in doing so, it holds her back from her purpose or her destiny. So that would be the number one question that pops up for me. Now, one of the things that I notice as a general statement to these toes is that she very much takes care of herself. She very much takes care of her feet, therefore her soul, and it's no mistake that our feet are referred to as having a soul. So, treat your soul wisely. But it's true. So, when I see toes that are well cared for, I know that she's going to have a really manicured presentation, and she's going to come across as somebody who cares about herself. So to get on that horse, if you will, and allowing kind of the horse to guide her sometimes, and if it's guiding her in a direction that she doesn't want to go, maybe ask that question of why. Why is she holding back? What is the purpose of holding back? And if it's something that let's say she has to take care of elderly parents, or she has a young child at home who hasn't gained their independence yet. All of those kind of things are things that would maybe hold her back from pursuing her own destiny. Now, those are very logical things that might take somebody off track of what they're supposed to be doing in life. However, the question then becomes, why are you allowing anybody else to pull you off track? And what purpose does that serve for you and your spiritual growth? That kind of thing. We could go way, way even deeper than that, but those are the things that definitely come up right away in that relationship toe. So another thing that I'll point out is the inconsistency between the right foot and the left foot. Okay, so on her left foot, the relationship toe is coming straight out. It's diving under that action toe. So I wonder where her internal relationships also hold her back, like her relationship with her higher self, whether she's able to take action without. My advice at this point would be to make sure that you're journaling, make sure that you're keeping track of your thoughts, make sure that you're affirming gratitude for various and assorted things in your life, because until you get that relationship in alignment with where your action is, where it's showing up as precisely straight instead of where right now it's kind of hiding a little bit under that action toe. I'm wondering where she lets that action take control, and she maybe feels busy all the time but isn't actually getting anything done, if that makes sense. So, however, what I was getting at initially was that the action toes or the relationship toes are very, very different from foot to foot. This one is almost completely hidden underneath that, and it has that I don't know how to describe. It's almost hammer toe-ish in that it's kind of coming back where it. Here, let me put it up to the screen so that you can see it a little bit better, and hopefully that comes across clearly, where, you know, she's definitely related, you know, definitely hiding under that action toe on both feet, but more specifically externally. So because of that, what ends up happening is this teardrop shape between the action and the temperament, the action toe and the relationship toe, ends up causing this little teardrop shape on her, and it also shows up on the relationship side of that coin as well. And so my question at that point would be, you know, where are you repeating yourself? Where does it feel like things are cyclical and maybe getting mundane, maybe not feeling comfortable, maybe feeling like you're going in this circle and circle and circle and circle? It's kind of like relationships in life in general. You know, changing a relationship, or, you know, leaving a significant other behind, or, you know, moving on, if you don't work on what you bring to the table, you're going to repeat that new relationship is going to repeat itself essentially in the, you know, of past stuff that made you leave in the first place, because you're the only control over how you respond to things in the relationship. Does that make sense? So got to work on yourselves, guys. Hold on just a second. I'm going to step away. I don't know. We have a lot of extra padding. So let me find a picture that I have where it shows that situation very distinctly, because it's an important thing to see. It's hard to understand. Okay, so in the image that I use sometimes in my advertising of my Toes Tuesdays, this image, okay? So this toe, if you notice, if you were to draw a line right down the middle of where the toenail is and you were to draw it right down the toe, you can kind of see that there's a lot more padding on this side than there is on the other side. That same thing is true in the image that I was sent by text. So that means that there's a great deal of future thought involved in when it comes to the relationships in that person's life. So everything in their mind's eye, if you will, is out in the future. So they have a really, really hard time focusing on the present. Because of that, it shows up as somebody who may not fully appreciate what's going on right here, right now. They're too out in the future about their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, specifically when it comes to the relationships in their life. And because that shows up on the right foot, it's about their external relationships. So first thing I would check is to see if that's also true on the internal self side. So if I kind of talk about it this way. Internally, that's you having a conversation with you in the mirror. So if you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're able to say certain words and have concepts hit your heart in such a wonderful, good way, those are the things that will work out really, really well in your life. Anything that you say in the mirror that feels uncomfortable, or that feels like a lie, or that feels burdensome, or whatever, those are all the things that are struggles in life, if that makes sense. So and languaging, I know you guys know this already. So hey Polly, so glad you're here. Just swiping there, you're like, oh good. So glad you're here. Okay, so we're talking toe reading. So on the relationship toe, when there's too much padding on the internal self, and I'll show you, Patty, what we were talking about. We were talking about how if you divide that toe right down the middle and you notice that there's a lot more padding on this side of this toe, if the toe, anything on the toe, on this side of the toe is about future tense stuff, anything on this side of the toe is about past tense stuff. So I would recommend to that person watching their languaging. So let's just pretend that this person is looking for a new relationship, a healthy relationship, one that they've always dreamed of and always wanted. I would ask them, where are you putting that out in the future instead of allowing it to be present right here, right now? So notice your languaging when you're talking about relationships. If you're desiring to have a relationship that's present, that's fully engaged, that's, working its positive light in your life, you have to talk about that as if it exists right here, right now. So, especially so much more, especially when you're talking about the great I am. Okay, so in the Bible, there's reference to the great I am being God. So when we as humans use that phrase, I am, fill in the blank, those are powerful words, and we have to be very, very careful what we put behind the great I am. Okay, so think about it as if you're translating for God. So when you say I am poor, or I am looking for a relationship, you're putting all of that out in the future. The poor thing is right here, right now, and you will forever remain poor. If you continue to use that languaging, that will be the case. But as far as relationships are our, topic of conversation tonight. So as far as languaging goes with relationships, I would welcome somebody to say, I have a beautiful relationship. I am involved in what I view to be the perfect relationship. Obviously, you guys know there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. There are ups and downs to all relationships. And thank goodness, we'd be bored out of our minds if there weren't ups and downs, right? We get bored so easily, we humans. So just keep that languaging. Just be super hyper aware of where your languaging is going. And in addition to saying that, I also want to say this other thing, which is a positive thought is 100 times more powerful than a negative thought. So if you catch yourself in a negative thought and you shift it to the positive thought, you're automatically obliterating what you thought in that negative sense. Okay, so if you think to yourself, I am alone. I am alone. If that's a thought that goes through your head all the time, I am alone. Ugh, you could do with some boredom, Nicole. Whatever, lady. You love it and you know it. Anyway, yes, you could do with some boredom, but honestly, you would be bored with it so fast, Cajun girl. In the best way possible. You need somebody who keeps you on your toes, who's action-packed, who's, exciting, but you also need them to be fully engaged with you and focused on you and your son, right? So when you speak about who you're looking for and what you want, speak in that present tense. Speak in that languaging that brings that to you right here, right now, today. Write notes to yourself of gratitude. I am so grateful I have wonderful, positive people in my life. I am so grateful that everything in my life is going smoothly. I am so grateful that, gratitude is it is the most powerful emotion besides love on the face of the planet. So there's love, then there's gratitude. They're so close to each other, though. The reality is they're so close to each other. When you cannot have love without gratitude. You cannot have gratitude without love, really. So you're putting that energy out there into the world, and like attracts like. So when you're talking about bringing it to you and wanting it right here, right now, God, your languaging is seriously powerful. So you just keep that in mind. Let's see. I have a girlfriend who is a wonderful, wonderful coach, and she posted a picture of her toes on Facebook in one of her ads. So I am going to use it because if it's on social media as public, then it's public, right? I could use it. So I just want to share with you how amazingly wonderful these big toes are. Okay, so your big toes here, she has these really, really incredible big toes, and it would be my imagination that at one point in her life, because you can kind of see that there's a little bit of extra padding around that tip of that toe, instead of unlike, I'm just going to use these toes as an example next to them, okay? So you see how these toes come up straight, and even though they're really big toes and this person has really big ideas too, this person is sharing all their big ideas with the world. They don't keep a whole lot to themselves. When you keep stuff to yourself, your padding will kind of balloon out like that. It will almost look a little bit more bulbous on the top, and the trunk of the toe will be thinner. Okay, so when I see her toes, I see these big, wonderful, she has fantastically wonderful ideas. She's very, very likely to bring those big ideas to fruition. You can see how straight her toes come off her foot. This is her right foot. This is her left foot. Yes, just making sure. Assuming, this is of course assuming that her picture is not in inverse online. But let's just assume that this is her left foot and this is her right foot. So this tattoo is another thing. I want to mention tattoos because I haven't mentioned it in the last 4 times that I've been online talking about the toe reading. So tattoos. If I were sitting with her, I would say, what was going on in the relationships in your life? So the external relationships, because this is a right foot. Okay, what was going on in your relationships in life that required you, or that felt like you had to give extra emphasis to being a star? Does that make sense? So, oftentimes, in fact, almost always, every time for me. So I've never had somebody deny that it was either a drastic relationship change, so like a divorce, or, a fully embracing of themselves as the person who was in charge of their life, kind of letting the past drama from maybe childhood go. Or they lost somebody they loved, okay? And it was just that kind of aha moment of realizing how important their opinions and decisions are in their lives. Anyway, so I love when I see tattoos on feet, because it's very, very significant. When women in India get the henna tattoos all over their hands and feet for, I don't know if this is their tradition, but in toe reading, what that henna tattoo means, and because it's all over all of their limbs, it means that they're fully embodying and fully embracing the giving of themselves to their significant other, which I think is just fascinatingly beautiful to me. The emphasis being on the beautiful artwork and the detail, and making it something that shows up on every single limb of their body, literally. So they're literally giving all of themselves to whomever they're marrying. And I think that's so sweet. It makes me cry. All right, what else can we talk about? So let's talk, I know this is kind of shifting subjects a little bit because we've been talking about this relationship toe. But what I want to point out here is the bunion. Okay, everybody's very, very, very curious about the bunion. So in toe reading, this bunion, because this right foot has a tendency to come perfectly forward. This is how the picture arrived to me. And it's just easier for me to show you guys when it's upright because all the toes are, right there. As opposed to if I had it dropping down from the ceiling. Anyway, so this toe, the bunion on this foot it's a really, really slight. There's really not a whole heck of a lot to it. It is important, but it's not nearly as prominent, and so not nearly as important as the bunion on her left foot. So bunions have a tendency to be that this concept that we've gone off of our life's path. Our purpose in life is what it is. We can choose to do something else. We can choose to ignore the life's purpose. We could be pushed by family to do a different life purpose. We could be pushed by, family or anybody, friends, churches, whatever. It doesn't matter who, but we can be taken off or led off of the path that we're supposed to take in life. And when that happens, those bunions show up. And what it is if we look at the toes, or we look at the feet in general, what we're looking at is from here, from my thumb to here on the bunion. So the bunion to the corn, or kind of where the corns end up. We're talking about the shoulder of responsibility. So this is the shoulder of responsibility in life. And on the big toe, we're talking about the past and how much responsibility this person seemed to think that they had, specifically in childhood. Because the burden of responsibility in today, or her idea of what her future responsibility is pretty significant too. Okay? That means wonderful things. It also means, let's start with the wonderful things. The wonderful thing is she can take on so much responsibility. She may seem like a superwoman to everybody around her because she's doing things that are so far above and beyond anybody else's expectations. And I can tell that because it doesn't show up on her right foot, okay? Her right foot just doesn't have that same burden of responsibility located on it. So she's showing up, she's doing her thing, she appears to have it all under control, but then on the internal self side of things, there's a little bit of resentment going on when it comes to this burden of responsibility. Let me rephrase that. It feels more like a burden to her on herself than, sorry, my emergency broadcast telling me I need to be home. I'm home, so it's all good. So she feels inside herself that she has this responsibility that she is sometimes having trouble with. So my question to her at that point would be, where does your life feel overwhelming to you? And, maybe it's time to prioritize. You're showing up, everybody else thinks you got it all under control, and I see that. But where is it burdening you? Where is it burdening you in your soul? Where are you not taking care of what you need to do for you in this? Now, remember, this is the same person that I said took very good care of herself. So physically, she takes very good care of herself, and that shows up on the external self side very clearly. Internally, I'm wondering where she feels not cared for enough, where she feels that burden of responsibility is solely hers, She's taken on a lot of responsibility, and it can be scary. It can be scary if those two aren't in alignment with each other, because it can feel like a really, really big burden. And yeah, so I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, I'm sure it makes sense. I don't know if it helps anybody. I hope it helps somebody. All right, so there's one other thing I want to talk about when it comes to relationships, actually to any toes. Okay, so I'm going to take this foot, or this picture of feet, as the example for the last thing that I'll talk about today. So if you can see these, her external self side, her right hand side, this foot comes pretty forward. It's coming straight off her foot. You know, all her toenails are upright. So this foot has a presentation of being very forthcoming, being upright, being honest, being, you know, not overwhelmingly positive or negative. It is. So she's worked very, very hard on presenting a certain image. Now inside, on her internal self side, you can see how this toe kind of bends at that first knuckle. And actually all of them kind of do, that first knuckle has this like extra stress on it, right? Where the toe is pointing down to the earth. So when toes point down to the earth like that, it has a tendency to mean that they're holding on a little bit hard to whatever it is. So in this case, they're holding on hard to internal communication. They're holding on hard to internal action. They're holding on hard to internal relationship. They're holding on hard to faith and trust, and that faith and trust is a little bit buried behind the relationship, right? So another piece of that is that where the toe meets the foot in the timeline of where these things show up on our toes, where the toe meets the foot is, let's just imagine that that's our birthplace. Okay, that's when we were born into this existence. The tips of the toes are you know, where we are right here, right now. So like if you have a jagged toenail, where are your thoughts jagged involving whichever toenail it shows up on? So if it shows up on your communication toe, where is your communication a little jagged, if, you know, or rough, if you will, right? If you have too much padding on one side or the other, where is your languaging to past tense or to future tense, that kind of thing. For this relationship toe, you can tell that she's showing up beautifully, and it's even longer, right? This external self, her toes are showing up even longer. But on the timeline of life, you can see that it's about 2/3 of her life ago that something happened in her life where it changed how she communicated from that point forward. And it was not necessarily something positive. In fact, it was definitely not something positive. The reason being because it takes this dive. And when the toes take a dive toward the earth, that means that they're holding on for dear life, if you will. So, you know, when I sit with somebody in toe reading, I would maybe touch that spot and say, what's the first memory that comes to mind? What's the first thing you think about when we're touching your communication about 2/3 of your life ago? So what was going on then? What was happening? How did it feel? Did it feel stifling? Did it feel like you couldn't speak your truth? Did it feel like you couldn't pursue who you were as a person? That kind of thing. However, here's the great thing about this person. This person's toe, and I don't know if you can see it as well on the image through the Facebook Live, but their big toe swoops up. So it swoops up as opposed to, coming down like the rest of them. The rest of them kind of come down, but that big toe swoops up. So the swooping up of the toe means that they're very connected with spirit. They're very connected with God. They look to God for destiny choices. They look to, and my word is God, your word could be something else, but that's what it comes down to, is that they look for that positive reinforcement in what they're doing in their life, to the higher power and source and universal energy. So that's that swooping up of that toe. However, whether they're hearing the communication maybe, but they're not following it. They're not following the idea of, so like an aha moment. Okay, so this is an example I use. When I'm driving down the street and I take pretty much the same route to and from where I'm going regularly, right? And on that route, I turn left here, I turn right there, I turn left here, I turn right there, right? Typically, we do that in a normal routine fashion. When we get an inspired aha moment, it tells us to turn left instead of what we would normally be turning right, okay? That's what I mean by not following that intuitive guidance. So she's obviously looking to spirit or guide or God or whatever you want to call it. She's obviously seeing that. It's obviously she has a good positive attitude about it, but whether she's not actually communicating that. She's not actually, but here's the kicker. She's communicating it outside to people around her. So she's probably like the best friend that you could possibly have, but she doesn't feel the same about herself. She doesn't feel the same strength and empowerment within herself. So anyway, that's a childhood wound to heal. That's all about therapy. Toe reading is not really therapy. It just helps point out the things that we're holding on to subconsciously. And sometimes when I sit with somebody, it's really interesting. When I sit with somebody, especially people with hammer toes, hammer toes have a tendency to be about childhood burdens and perceptions from that child's perspective of what happened in their life when they were little. Sometimes it's accurate, but more often than not, your 5-year-old self cannot make a valid decision about what happened in your life, or 10-year-old self, or 12-year-old self, or even your 15-year-old self. Our brain is not fully developed until we're well into our 20s. So, 24, 25, 26 is when our brain is fully developed and we're completely prepared to take on some of the challenges in life. So when we have challenges that happen earlier in our lives than 24, 25, 26, right around that time, it can be devastating. It can be devastating because our brain is in that mode of, surviving instead of thriving. Our brain is in that mode of not quite knowing exactly how to handle it or what to do. So for example, my mom started her life in Ohio on a farm. Well, when her dad was drinking and she was punished, she had to go stand in the corner in the dining room, and it was horrifically traumatizing to her because the field mice that are in every house, in every farmhouse ever, were running across her feet, and she was terrified of mice. Well, it took, 10 years of talk therapy to realize that it was her, 3-year-old self that thought those mice were rats. And so the rats were going to eat her alive. They were going to eat her feet. They were going to tear her to shreds, instead of these little field mice that were, probably just getting the crumbs from dinner that night. Not to say that mice are any less scary than rats. They're not. But she thought her memory of that experience was that they were rats and that they were there to kill her. So she was horribly traumatized by that. The second that she acknowledged that it's possible that her 3-year-old self remembered the rats instead of field mice, it's like this whole burden of the memory of that experience was taken away. She had already forgiven her father for the drinking and the weird, crazy behavior. She had already forgiven, her mother for standing by and not doing any, like all of that stuff she had forgiven, but she still couldn't quite go to that place of being completely content with some of those childhood memories, because again, it was that 3-year-old self that was keeping those memories for her. Hi, Jordan. Thanks for watching. So just, be aware that when you have childhood trauma memories, that it's part of that is, facing that it's your child self that has those memories, as opposed to your full adult brain that can maybe shift that memory to something that's far more logical and probably is more of a reality of what happened. But anyway, all right, so the last thing I'm going to share with you is, if you don't already know about this book by Louise Hay called You Can Heal Your Life, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. When I was first entering the idea of this whole metaphysical realm, toe reading, I mean, come on, what the heck is that? Louise Hay is who almost all of the books back then. I know it's backwards. I know, honey. I can't help that. You just have to believe me when I say. But so what I'm going to show you is that for every ailment or every issue that we have, our thoughts, feelings, and emotions hold on to it, and it becomes dis-ease in... I know, right? I like that. Tap into your mirror self, Gene. Well, we know, Nicole, that Gene can read it just fine, all on his own. It could be backwards, upside down, and, in Gaelic, and he could still probably read it. Anyway, so Louise Hay goes on to talk about the problem, a probable cause for that problem, and then the solution. Okay, so the affirmation, the new thought pattern that will best serve that ailment. So this is the one that I wish I had known as a teenager. Acne, right? There are some kids that just have this horrible acne issue going on, and I'm not discounting the fact that there are hormonal changes. There are cleanliness habits. All of those kind of things, of course, play a factor in acne. But if you think about it, not every kid has acne. Not every kid has those issues. But all of them are going through those hormonal changes, and all of them have, days when they don't want to shower, right? So acne doesn't just show up because of nothing. Acne, the probable cause, according to Louise Hay, is not accepting the self or dislike of oneself. So if you think back to when you were a teenager and going through some of those, walking down the halls and seeing girls whisper, or seeing guys whisper, or, being bullied in whatever form that took way back when, yes, this book is fantastic. It's totally amazing. You'll love it, Jordan. So the affirmation or the new thought pattern that you definitely want to consider if acne is an issue is, I am a divine expression of life. I love and accept myself right where I am right now. And gives me goosebumps just to say those words. How powerful are those words? But notice, remember way back in the beginning of this talk, I was talking about using the words I am wisely. In the Bible, I am is God. That is God. So if we are I aming ourselves, we are voicing God words. So you have to be so careful what you put after I am. So this is, I am a divine expression of life. I love and accept myself wherever I am right now. So anyway, that's just acne. That's just nothing. This goes into anxiety. It goes into appetite issues. It goes into arteries and heart health. It talks about bad breath. Anyway, so it's a fantastic, wonderful book. You can heal your life. She, of course, gives her own testimonials for her own life. She gives about 1 million testimonials of working with other people and how it helped shift their thoughts around ailments in their life. Disease shows up as DIS dash ease, EASE. So when you think of disease in your body, think of you not being at ease with whatever that thing shows up as. So if it's a knee issue or an ankle issue or a hip issue, the dis-ease of those ailments show up as, where are you not willing to walk forward? What is holding you back? How is that not, how are you not feeling like you can be moving forward in your life, right? So some of obviously they're very deep thought questions, but it's super, I love this stuff, so I could talk about it all night, but I believe my half hour is up and I will get back to my family, and I would welcome you to get back to yours. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. Send me questions if over the course of the week you think you see toes. Everybody's toes are exposed right now. It's so exciting to me. Toe readers actually have to take a vow when they become a toe reader that they're not going to look at anybody's feet for more than 30 seconds without permission. I only laugh because it's so much shows up in toes that it really does reveal a lot of where that person is and what they're dealing with. I love this. I wish I lived in Arizona. We just actually came back from Arizona. So we visit a lot. My mom still has a house there. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, Jamie with Soul Heart Entertainment. Come back next Tuesday for another ToesDay talk. Talk to you later, guys. Bye for now.